The story kicks off with a jaw-dropping view of deep space. Picture this, a whole fleet of massive ships drifting in formation, surrounded by towering battle mechs that look like they could crush a tank with one step. Everything's quiet, but the vibe is tense, like everyone knows something bad's about to go down. Then the scanners go crazy. Out of nowhere, a portal tears open in the middle of space. Everyone braces for an all-out invasion. It's the kind of moment where you expect hundreds of enemy ships to come pouring through, but instead, just one. A single dark-colored mech drifts out of the portal. It looks smooth, sharp, and dangerous, like it was built for destruction. Oh, the people in charge are confused. One mech against an entire fleet doesn't make any sense, but they don't wait. They light it up instantly, firing everything they've got. Thing is, none of it works. This one machine moves like a ghost. It dodges missiles, slips past lasers, and weaves right through the defense systems like it owns the place. Before anyone realizes what's happening, it slices through the flagship's shield and crashes straight into the command room. Within seconds, the higher-ups are wiped out. No mercy, no hesitation. The rest of the fleet panics and sends out their elite mechs to stop it, but it's no use. The black mech pulls out a massive blade and goes to work. One by one, the defenders fall, cut down like they were nothing. It's a slaughter. Then comes the big move. With all eyes on him, the mech charges up and releases a brutal slash that tears the largest ship in half. The explosion that follows sends shockwaves across space and takes out anything unlucky enough to be nearby. Inside that unstoppable machine is the main character, cool, calm, and completely unfazed. He's not some rookie with a grudge. He's a guy who's been through hell and come back cold. The entire attack was part of his plan, and the one helping guide it, an AI assistant built like a maid but running on military-grade tech. She handles the strategy, he handles the destruction. Once the flagship's down, he gives the signal to go all in. The rest of his forces, which had been holding back, get the green light. The AI sends out the command, and suddenly, it's an all-out war. Just then, another mech appears through a new portal. This one's piloted by a girl who doesn't hesitate. She jumps right into the chaos and wipes out a nearby enemy bot. She's late, but she makes up for it fast, tearing through enemies like she's been itching for a fight. While the enemy scrambles to regroup, the AI keeps directing the attack with perfect timing. The fleet Liam controls moves like clockwork, pushing harder, faster, and smarter than the other side can handle. Ships start exploding, enemy mechs get shredded. It's pure domination. In the middle of all that, a woman shows up trying to do business, trying to sell him some flashy new warships. Wrong time, wrong place, she gets removed fast. With most of the enemy wiped off the map, the main character leans into the chaos. He thrives on it. He enjoys seeing his enemies lose. The more they fall, the more satisfied he feels. It's personal. He's not just here for victory, he's here for payback. He grabs a giant launcher, aims it straight at another cruiser, and fires without blinking. The explosion lights up the battlefield like fireworks on the 4th of July. Now that the last of the enemy mechs are gone, he's still not satisfied. He wants more. Every win in this new life feels like revenge for everything he lost before. And right when the smoke starts to settle, the story jumps back to the life he lived before he became the most feared name in space. He's just a regular guy coming home after a long, tiring day on a packed train. When he gets to his place, his wife welcomes him at the door. He asks about their daughter, and she says she's already asleep. Later, she casually brings up wanting a dog after seeing one at a friend's house. He reminds her they simply can't afford a pet right now. The following day, they visit a local pet store to check out some dogs. While looking at them, he can't help but think of a dog he once loved and lost. Even though his job is a nightmare, his boss constantly criticizes him, and his co-workers grab the credit for his work. He finds solace in the small, happy life he shares with his wife and daughter. One day, a friend invites him to see a new movie. On his way there, he passes by a nearby cafe and catches a glimpse of his wife sitting with another man. Shocked and filled with confusion, he keeps his thoughts to himself, and later, when he's home, he casually asks about her day. She brushes it off by saying she was at their daughter's school, and he doesn't press further. He tries to convince himself that his wife would never betray him, but his mind keeps going back to that image. Meanwhile, his work life starts to unravel when his computer refuses to shut down properly. A few days later, he stops by the same cafe, feeling a bit relieved not to see her there. However, as he leaves, he notices his wife walking nearby with their daughter and the same man. His heart sinks when he hears his daughter call the man Daddy. That moment crushes him. He's left questioning everything he believed about his life. Distracted and troubled at work, he barely manages to get through the day before his boss starts reprimanding him again. While he's trying to explain that his computer is acting up, a phone call interrupts him, a call telling him that his daughter has been in an accident. At the hospital, doctors need blood samples from both parents. When the test results come in, his blood doesn't match his daughter's, though his wife's does. The revelation hits him hard. At home, he confronts his wife, his heart heavy with betrayal and sorrow as he desperately searches for answers. Instead of an explanation, he only gets cold indifference. She blames his long hours and low pay for her unhappiness over their 10 years of marriage. She insists that she raised their daughter on her own, and now she's leaving. With their daughter in tow, she makes it clear that the girl is going to live with her real father. His desperate pleas to keep their daughter go unanswered as she calmly chooses the other man. As if that wasn't enough, things at work spiral further. His boss accuses him of stealing a huge sum from the company, and evidence points to his computer, the same one that malfunctioned. With no chance to defend himself, he's fired on the spot. Now divorced, homeless, and disgraced, he's forced to live in a tiny rental room. His wife keeps full custody of their daughter while still demanding child support, and he's left with a massive debt he must repay or face jail time. Once a devoted husband and loving father, he's been stripped of everything. One random afternoon, his phone lit up with a message from an old buddy. The guy had just bought a brand new VR racing game, one of those insanely hyped ones, the kind he'd dreamed of back in high school. He stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply button, thinking about asking to join, but he didn't. He just watched the screen dim and fade to black. He kept on grinding, freelancing, taking odd jobs, anything that brought in a little cash. He wasn't chasing fame, he had no family of his own, barely spoke to anyone anymore, but he was real, a decent guy with a heart that cared more than it should have. But sometimes, life doesn't pay that back. Instead of getting a break, he got hit with brutal news. A rare disease, one that drained his energy fast, the kind that racked up bills faster than treatment could help. He was broke, alone, and running out of time, so he just lay there in his tiny apartment, eyes fixed on the ceiling fan, waiting. As the light in the room faded, his mind drifted. He remembered hearing those comforting stories, how some people, before dying, saw loved ones or pets come to greet them, a kind farewell. But then, right in front of him, a strange light shimmered into view. It wasn't peaceful. It felt otherworldly, almost unreal. In that eerie glow, a horrifying truth unfolded. The person who had hacked into his bank accounts, drained every last cent. It wasn't some faceless hacker. It was his boss, the same man who had acted like a mentor for years. And worse, the child he thought was his own wasn't. That boss was the biological father. Everything shattered. The woman he trusted, the daughter he raised, the life he fought to build, it had all been a lie. He felt the betrayal deep in his bones. The pain was overwhelming. He couldn't even scream. He just hoped it was all some horrible dream. But a deep, echoing voice cut through the silence, reminding him that it was all real. The voice asked him what he wanted. He didn't even think twice. He wanted revenge. The figure behind the voice seemed amused by how fast he flipped from love to rage. It spoke calmly, saying it had come to repay him for the kindness he'd shown in life, but his fury drowned out any memory of goodness. Then the voice offered something strange. A second chance. A new life. He didn't hesitate. He said he'd live only for himself now. No more sacrificing for others. No more being used and left behind. The figure nodded approvingly. Images of wild alien worlds appeared, some filled with monsters, some with magic, and others with massive futuristic cities. But one stood out, a chaotic planet where tech and sorcery mixed into something dangerous and powerful. That's the one he picked. A blood-marked contract appeared. He signed without hesitation. Seconds later, everything changed. He was reborn as Liam Sarah Wainfield, the heir of a powerful noble family on a jungle-covered world named Astalar. His new life began in quiet luxury. But by the time he turned 5, things got real. One day, his mother brought him into a massive marble hall and told him that his gift wasn't a toy, it was an AI maid. A huge holographic screen popped up, showing tons of customization options. body types, voices, personalities. Some were wildly inappropriate for a kid. Even though his body was small, his mind was still fully grown, and those options made that very clear. Then his father entered with a smile and casually dropped life-changing news. Everything, the estate, the title, the family fortune, was now in Liam's hands. They were leaving for the Imperial home planet, and he was expected to handle the rest. Send money. Keep things running. Just like that, a 5-year-old became a count. Liam stood alone in the middle of a grand mansion. Dozens of servants waited for orders. Advanced machines buzzed in the background. It was all his. But deep inside, something shifted. He made a silent promise to himself. In his past life, people walked all over him. That wasn't happening again. This time, he'd take what he wanted, live how he pleased. No more betrayals, no more pretending to be the nice guy. He'd be the evil lord the world feared. Back on Earth, the strange figure watched over his old lifeless body, a smirk curled on its lips. The game had officially started. Across town, his ex and her new fiancé, the same man who ruined him, were all smiles. They were planning their fancy destination wedding completely guilt-free. But karma came fast. With a snap of his fingers, the figure unleashed justice. Police stormed in, arresting the ex-boss for fraud, harassment, and enough charges to put him behind bars for the rest of his life. The evidence? Flawless. His ex begged for answers, sobbing, asking what would happen to her and her daughter. No one answered. The figure just laughed one last time and told her the cold truth. She had lost the only person who ever truly cared about her. Life wasn't going to be so easy anymore. Then it vanished through a swirling portal. But just before it closed, a glowing spirit darted through. It was a dog, Liam's loyal pup. His best friend had followed him across dimensions, refusing to be left behind. Still loyal, still guarding him. Far away in deep space, chaos was already in motion. A powerful princess named Christiana was destroying enemy fleets like they were nothing. Her victory was swift and brutal. Back on Astalar, Liam stood inside his estate. It was finally time to meet his AI maid. She introduced herself as Amagi, elegant, graceful, crafted to match his every preference. The butler explained that Amagi would stay by his side for life. Liam inspected her, then took her to a private room. When the butler tried to follow, the door sealed shut. Inside, Liam asked for a massage, joked about taking a bath, and was shocked when Amagi accepted without hesitation. Later, when the butler knocked, he reminded Liam that even though he had the mind of a grown man, this world didn't consider anyone an adult until 50, and people here lived for hundreds of years. Liam laughed at the idea. A long life? That just meant more time to enjoy the madness. But beneath the smirk, a storm was brewing. He hadn't forgotten what happened. He hadn't forgotten what they took from him. The Empire was in a strange place. The very people who had built it were now the ones turning their backs on it. The nobility, the ones at the top, looked at AI robots with nothing but distrust. Even though these robots were powerful and could do amazing things, the nobles saw them more as a threat than a help. Liam, confused by all of this, couldn't figure out why his mother had given him an AI robot in the first place. Why would she do that, especially when everyone else hated them? The answer wasn't clear to him at the time. Eventually, the truth came crashing down on him. His parents had abandoned him, not because they didn't love him, but because their family had too much debt. The Winfield family had once been strong, founded by Liam's great-grandfather, Alistair. But over the years, his grandfather and father had failed. They couldn't run the family estate properly, and it all fell apart under their leadership. That realization hit Liam like a ton of bricks. He'd been dreaming of taking control, of making a name for himself, but now he knew he couldn't, not with all the debt his family had racked up. Worse, they couldn't pay it off, and things were only going to get worse from here. Meanwhile, in a rundown bar, the common folk were talking about their new king, a 5-year-old kid. They weren't exactly thrilled. The general rule of thumb was that new kings meant higher taxes, and they were already living in hard times. All they could do now was hope that this kid, this new king, would be a decent person, someone with a kind heart. Back at the mansion, Liam was deep in thought. It started to sink in that maybe he wasn't meant for greatness. Maybe he was just there to inherit his family's mess and take on their debt. His old life was full of betrayal, with everyone around him using him for their own gain. He couldn't help but think that history was about to repeat itself. Then there was Amagi, the AI robot. She too was an outcast in this world, and that made her different. He realized they were both isolated in their own way. Maybe they could work together, pull themselves out of this mess. And when he decided that, Amagi agreed to follow him. She swore to stick by him no matter what came their way. As long as she had a purpose, as long as she was useful to him, she knew she'd never be abandoned. Liam thought about how humans had always lived by certain rules about AI, rules about robotics. He thought about introducing her to those rules, the traditional ones that governed AI behavior. But then, something clicked. He wasn't going to live for anyone else anymore. Not for humanity, not for tradition. He wanted to live for himself, do things his way, so, instead of the old rules, he created his own. His new rules were simple. The maid robot must never harm him. She must always do what he asks, and she must protect herself as long as it doesn't break the first two rules. Those rules went straight into Amagi's programming. Liam was done with worrying about others. He had his own goals now. He wasn't going to let his family's name stay in the dirt. He was going to do something big. But Amagi warned him that what he wanted wasn't going to fit in with the world's laws, not with the way the government worked. She suggested he get an education capsule to help him. It would take 6 months, during which he would learn everything he needed to know, while she took care of the estate. At first, Liam was reluctant. He didn't want to trust a machine with his mind, but after thinking about it, he figured it was the best option. After all, if he was going to make it in this world, he needed the knowledge. Amagi reassured him that she would manage everything in his absence. Even then, Bian, someone who'd been around Liam for a while, tried to stop him. He didn't think the Empire would ever accept AI in charge of domains, but Amagi pointed out that there was no law against AI managing things, and that if Liam wanted to, he could make it happen. So, Liam went ahead with the plan. Even though Bian kept protesting, he told Bian to bring the capsule and walked off with Amagi by his side. As Liam prepared to enter the capsule, a thought crossed his mind. Could AI really feel emotions? Could Amagi truly care about him, or was she just doing her job? Amagi admitted she didn't have the answer, but she told him something had changed within her when he asked her to team up with him. That was enough for Liam. He decided that, with Amagi at his side, he had made the best choice. The capsule sealed around him, and for the next 6 months, Liam would be in a state of suspended learning, while Amagi handled everything on the outside. And with that, the episode came to an end.